field the last 90 feet over there. There's something going on.
This one a ground ball to first, hugs the line, the flip to first, and the inning is over. Boy, the defense was played very shifted well over in the outfield, but it doesn't come into play on the 3-1 put out to end the top of the third. World Baseball Classic Incorporated and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent.
We are in the neighborhood.
We certainly are. Ebbets Field, one of the most iconic ballparks, arenas, stadiums, whatever, in all of sports. From the Flatbush section here in Brooklyn, where the Dodgers played way back before moving to Los Angeles. But now baseball is back in a different capacity, of course. Major league teams and the Mets and the Yankees and other boroughs around here. But now it's the New York Penn League home of the New York Penn League Brooklyn Cyclones and the Mets minor league system. 1, 2, and 3 due up here for Brazil. Squaring to bunt, pops it up. And it falls foul off the bat of Gabriel Maciel, who grounded out to second base in his first at bat. And then it's Chirino and Reginado. So the Dodgers played their final game at Ebbets Field nearly 59 years ago. It'll be 59 years ago on Saturday. But baseball returned, the opening of this ballpark with beautiful Coney Island as the backdrop. And in the summer, when the Brooklyn Cyclones are playing games here, I can only imagine the beehive of activity that's out here. This is just a wonderful setting for any ballpark, and especially minor league ballparks, because you go to a major league game and look, there's big leaguers there. There's future Hall of Famers to kind of keep your eye on. And while that can certainly be the case in the minor leagues too, sometimes it's more of a family fun sort of atmosphere, and you can't get much more fun than an amusement park beyond the left field wall.
Or much more scenic, or much more historical, and all of that family atmosphere, and kind of a neat way to introduce kids, especially now, like me, who have short attention spans.
Yeah, I was a little upset that I had to pull you off the Soaring Eagle yesterday just to chit-chat with some of the clubs, but you know, tall enough to ride the ride, you get on them. It works.
Can't say that for some of our production crew.
1-2 pitches, line drive, base hit, right back up the middle. And Maciel is on base to lead things off here in the third.
Talk talking about the bat speed of Team Brazil and watching them hit yesterday, and Masael hitting with that bat kind of wrapped around himself a little bit, but he got it out there. And that's one thing that Steve Finley was talking with his hitters about staying in the middle of the field, not trying to get too big, not trying to overswing. Stay aggressive.
Runner goes. Throw down to second base is not in time.
You know, and that's a play that is going to be there for Brazil when they get on base, is to put pressure on the catcher, as I mentioned last inning. That's kind of been the real last position to come together for them as a team and in its development.
Runner in scoring position for Chirino, who is a native of Cuba.
You see a couple of stutter steps before the ball is up and out.
Pops up the bunt. Fouls it away, 1-1. And listen, if you're Pakistan and you've only been playing baseball for 20 some odd years, or if you're a major league club, you get a guy on second base and the hitter squares to bunt, you got to do the fundamentals. You got to get the ball down.
That's what Barry Larkin was talking about, that he teaches an aggressiveness, that he doesn't criticize mistakes if they're made with aggression. And interestingly enough, Paul, as we were talking, the game of baseball in Brazil did not originate from American immigration. It was Japanese immigration back in the early 1900s. And it was largely played by the Japanese.
Chop foul.
And had really lost interest among the crowd, and baseball kind of minimized as a sport being played down there. Of course, so many people playing soccer, but it has been making a comeback, and there's been some cultural changes down in Brazil. Many of, I guess almost over 2 million people are of Japanese descent down in Brazil.
Yeah. Two coming to Chirino as Kahn holds for a while up the middle. Nice play at second base to keep it on the infield. Dug out of the dirt at first. They don't get the out, but that's a nice job, because if that ball gets through, Brazil gets on the board. And if that ball gets by Ali at first, Brazil gets on the board. So now we'll take another look at this replay here. It'll still be first and third and nobody out.
Well,
most importantly, no run in.
I was going to say, you're right. The best play made at first base to stop that ball right there. He goes to stretch out for it and then sees that it's wide. And he said that these guys grew up playing cricket, wearing gloves now, but they've got hands. They've got good hands.
And that was not an easy play, going to his right up the middle for the second baseman, Fakir Hussein. They'll play the middle infield back. Nawaz, the third baseman, shifts back behind the third base bag as well. And a check on the runner at first, who's back safely.
Go deep like your pops, man.
Let's take a look at it again from the high home view, and you see it prevents us from going into center field, and that's where the real outstanding play is, to keep that ball from going over to the first base dugout, preventing a run.
First and third for Leonardo Reginado, who singled back in the first inning. He takes the ball in the dirt.
You can't realize how difficult that it is and how long it takes to incorporate a country per se that has not played baseball and has not had that type of proper instruction, the nuances or whatever. In football, you could take a year off and you can have straight line running speed and tackling fundamentals. But in baseball, it is completely different from the way the ball gets to you, the speed, the different changes, the hand-eye coordination of taking a round ball around bat and trying to hit it square. counterintuitive.
This one on the ground towards short. A run will score, and taken out at second base. But thankfully, Hussein gets up. That was a hard slide. Safe at first on the back end of the turn. But I kept a close eye on Hussein, who went down hard at second base.
Well, that was another, see, just a little slow with the pivot and a little awkward with the pivot at second, but the first baseman, Ali, has that play down. I mean, that's amazing. 2 plays in a row, and that one was better than the previous one at first base.
But a run scores on the fielder's choice as Reginado just continues to produce for this club. He went 11 for 23. That's a .478 average in the World Baseball Classic qualifier and tournament back in 2012 and 13 as Dante Bichette fouls this one off and into the seats down the right field line. So Reginado drives in a run on the fielder's choice, and it's 1-0 Brazil. Here's another look at the play.
You see a little bit of the footwork lacking and getting the ball up and out, and kind of an awkward throwing motion.
And he is right in the baseline, too.
Yep, completely clean.
The 0-1-2 Bichette fouls that one off again, and he's down on the count. No balls and 2 strikes. Struck out back in the first to end it. Once again, to go back to that play at second base for Hussein, you look at, again, a second baseman that's played probably much more baseball than Hussein. They're trying to avoid the runner, come across
use
the bag
for protection.
Exactly, and he did not. It's 90 feet, and he's 87 feet down the line.
And also throwing the ball more sidearm, and I mentioned, and you can't help mention a lot of these things.
Line shot, fair ball down the right field line. This one will roll toward the corner. Reginado takes the turn around third. He's coming in to score. Bichette heads to third, and he is in there safely. Brazil is up 2-0. So an RBI triple for Dante Bichette.
Well, that's not the first time a Bichette has hit a triple, and again, one of the nuances of the ballpark, when it does go into the corners, when it goes off the backstop, it tends to kind of stick out there, so you have to really go a long way in your route. You're not going to get these hard caroms that you will in big league ballparks. There was another great short hop scoop on a throw from third base. I think because these guys are so used to that game and the ball being bounced, they've got that short hop scoop pretty well down.
And they'll play the infield in with a runner on third and 1 out. And the pitch to Ronaldo Sato misses. The ball and no strikes. Sato struck out to lead things off back in the second, but up here with an RBI opportunity in the bottom of the third. A couple of runs in for Brazil, and they lead this one 2-0. That's a base hit through the left side, and Brazil has a 3-0 lead as Bichette comes in to score.
Starting to see some of that bat speed I was talking about that Team Brazil is loaded with. As the pitcher Khan tiring a little bit, and the pitching coach coming out to give him a little bit of a breather. That little kind of half slider, baby cutter that he is throwing has started to come up in the strike zone.
Well, he had 29 pitches coming into this inning. He's at 46 right now as the pitching coach John Golding goes out to talk with him. And speaking of pitching coaches, is another situation where in talking with the manager Saeed Fakhar Ali Shah yesterday, said they don't have a professional pitching coach in Pakistan. So another thing that he mentioned too, and certainly he knows these players a heck of a lot more than we do. He said if we had a professional pitching coach and 100 of our best pitchers within a couple of months, if they were working together every day, within a couple of months, we would see pitchers in AAA here in the United States.
And the reason being because of the game that they grew up playing. And how their shoulders are so strong by having to throw over the top without bending the elbow at all, that there already are good building blocks of body strength and arm strength from which to build from.
1-0 coming to one. Carlos Muniz on the ground toward third. They get the out at second, and they turn the double play. But 3 runs come in for Brazil. A double play prevents further damage. We are through 3 here in Brooklyn, and Brazil is up 3-0. World Baseball Classic qualifier with Joe McGrain. I'm Paul Severino here at MCU Park in Brooklyn, New York. The Manhattan Bridge that connects Manhattan, believe it or not, and Brooklyn. There's also the Brooklyn Bridge, the iconic Brooklyn Bridge as well. So many bridges, so much beautiful architecture in this area as well. And then there's the water. That's always beautiful too. Here on the banks of the Atlantic Ocean on Coney Island in Brooklyn. Beautiful day, nice little breeze.
You see that boat out there? Hi, sailor.
And with a few extra days, even though the Farmer's Almanac, I guess, would be, right? Who calls it summer and fall and whatnot, seasons? Who invented the seasons? This one dug out over at first by Bichette. A nice play.
I'm guessing, based on where we are, the Four Seasons did.
You might be right.
Yeah.
Jama Shaid is retired. A nice play by Bo Bichette over to his brother. This is how the 4th inning gets started.
It's a play that's probably happened in the backyard quite a few times. From one Bichette to another. Pick me up, bro. Thank you.
Got him on the backhand. And it was Dante Bichette's RBI triple in the bottom of the 3rd that started the scoring. Brazil with a 3-0 lead as Jawad Ali takes a called strike. Well, Jean Thome has been nothing if not efficient. Just 28 pitches to this point. He had a 7-pitch 3rd inning and a nice play over there on the slide. High throw. Big Bro unable to bail out his brother. But again, those are the little nuances of baseball as you're running down the first base line, and you're always taught first thing you do, you touch first base, you make one step to the right in foul territory, then you can pass the bag as much as you want. But he may have twisted an ankle over there at first.
We've seen this 3 times now out of Team Brazil. This time a great slide to the right. Yeah, twice out of the second baseman Hojo. Big Bro picked him up last time. That time he wasn't big enough.
And Jawad Ali, who is one of the more accomplished hitters in this lineup, is down, and the training staff comes out to check on him. Looked like he twisted that ankle there. Got a little excited on that high throw. The play was right in front of him, and took that step or two towards second base, and that makes him a live runner, as it were. That's why Joe was yelling, "Tag him, tag him." It looked like Bichette couldn't get a handle on the ball either.
That was a realization that, ow, my ankle hurts, and then, oh, yes, I've got to get back to first.
Yeah. Training staff heads back, and it looks like Ali is going to stay in this ball game. So he reaches on an E6.
You know, that one could have gone either way, because that was a nice play right there.
Yep. Tough play to his left for Bo Bichette. And after the previous play to lead off the inning, a slow roller, threw it low. Dante Jr. able to dig it out. That one sailed on him a bit. So a runner on and one out, as Zubair Nawaz will come to the plate.
You know, aside, Paulie, from a couple of errant throws, the glove work on both sides of the ball, both teams, has really been surprising to me in a good way.
It's a strike to Nawaz. You hear it all the time in football. No matter the conditions, defense travels.
Yep.
So you can always play good defense, one would assume. Ground ball up the middle. 1, 2. As Hojo turns it himself, they work around the error, and we are through 3.5. They call it a pitcher's best friend. It gets Tomei out of any further trouble here in the 4th inning, as Hojo's there, steps on the bag and completes the inning-ending double play. Just to walk through some of the pitch limitations, you can't pitch more than 2 consecutive days. If a pitcher throws 30 or more, he's got to rest for at least a day. 50 or more has to rest for at least 4 days, which essentially means that they'd be done for this qualifying tournament. Can't throw more than 85 in a game unless you need to finish it in bat. And the intentional walk pitches, if there are any, do not count toward that pitch total. We head to the bottom of the 4th. Brazil with a 3-0 lead as Bo Bichette, first pitch swinging, fouls this one off, and it's 0-1.
I guess probably the easiest way to understand and explain all of those graphics there is you have to be very careful how you use your top couple of pitchers. One, to get to that championship game and to win it, and two is to not use them up.
And all the more reason to, can't really, you know what I mean when I say to try to win. I mean, these guys are obviously trying to win, but
absolutely.
It puts the importance on winning your first 2 games to get day 3 off so that you can rest some pitchers. Ball and a strike to Bichette, and then it's Luis Camargo and Lucas Hojo here in the bottom of the 4th inning. And I would also venture to guess that different teams may have different strategies when it comes to starting pitchers. In a case like a team like Brazil, or excuse me, for Pakistan, they're probably going to go with their best guy out of the gate, knowing that they've got to shut down some tough Brazil bats.
As they should, but
right.
I have to tell you that that enthusiasm and that passion has really played. These guys have, I mean, are just playing incredibly hard and hustling, and I've been really impressed by some of the athletic plays that they've made that aren't easy plays. The short hop scoops, handling of a ball in the outfield with the twisting wind in right field.
2-2, misses and the count runs full. But I guess what I'm saying is, I did the qualifier in Mexico back in March, and for Team Mexico, they were far and away the most favored team there. So they didn't use their quote-unquote ace in their first 2 games. They waited for that winner-take-all qualifying
and empty
final.
the bucket with them.
Exactly. This one lined down the right field line, but it is foul and into the Brazil bullpen. So it's difficult to play that way, to play 3 or 4 days in advance. But you have to take your chance. I guess that if that's your strategy, you use your guy, because that's the thing. Even if you win your first 2 games, that's what the modified double elimination means. It's not a double elimination. You have to lose twice and you're out. A team can win. It's a ground ball toward third. Long throw across the diamond, and it goes into the dugout. So a dead ball, and Bichette will head to second base on a throw that was unable to be dug out by Jawad Ali.
Well, no sooner did I mention it. We have a throw get away from the third baseman. Mentioned that all of these guys throw over the top. This first baseman has dug out 2 beautifully. That was another difficult one.
So runner on second is Bo Bichette after the E5, and that brings up Luis Camargo, who walked, so far the only walk issued by Khan. Time is called. So again, just to tie a bow on the modified double elimination, even if you win the first 2 days, you're essentially undefeated going into Sunday's qualifier final. But if you lose that day, you still lose. There's no, well, we only lost once. We can have 2 teams with 1 loss, but it's whoever wins on Sunday punches the ticket to Seoul, South Korea for the final spot in pool play in the World Baseball Classic, which begins in March.
You know, so you would have to do some serious scouting if you think that you had your best pitcher to save him for the final game. You imagine, say the Dodgers, hey, we're going to roll out Clayton Kershaw in game 4.
Right.
We're going to save him for game 4.
Here is a look at the bracket that we will see unfold and fill out over the next few days. Pakistan and Brazil right now. Great Britain and Brazil coming up later on today, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And then tomorrow another doubleheader. The two teams that lose today will face off. The loser of that game goes home. The two winners will also square off and get their chance to play on Sunday. And another elimination comes your way on Saturday evening. And misses to Camargo.
That seems to be the one go-to pitch that Khan has used. It is kind of that cutter slider hybrid. Some have smaller break. Some have a little bit larger one. This one going on the outside part of the plate. And with that type of pitch, I don't think he's accomplished enough to be taking those type of chances on that side of the plate, because the ball, as you saw, broke right into the middle. And that's really not a place for us pitchers to ever try to live.
Yeah, it's not where you're going to make your money. This will be pitch number 60 coming up for Khan. And given the fact that he's gone over 50, he needs at least 4 days of rest. So as we were just talking about the pitch restrictions, this pretty much does it for him in this tournament. Runner goes, chopped up the middle. Nice play behind the second base bag, and the throw to get the out. And once again, a nice play up the middle saves a run. That is an amazing effort by Jama Shahid, going back behind the second base bag for out number 1.
Well, we were talking about the hand-eye and the footwork. You see the runner going, and look how quick his feet and hands are working in unison. And just the body balance took him a while to get the handle. And he also had a high hop to negotiate with. So just the reactions that you can see, the athletic ability really shine through.
Infield in for Hojo. And he hits it through a drawn-in infield for an RBI and a base hit as Bichette scores and makes it 4-0 Brazil. Yeah, it's the turf, just to go back to that nice play up the middle by Jama Shahid a moment ago. It's the field turf with that sort of rubbery bounce. But I almost wonder if on that play up the middle that hit the lip between the grass and the turf, the grass and the dirt, if you will. This one didn't hit much of anything, just goes up the middle for a base hit, and it's 4-0 Brazil.
You know, Paul, I didn't make my way out into fair territory because everyone was taking batting practice, and knowing if that's just painted from green to the, you know, the clay covered dirt. But oftentimes, you know, you see that, you know, with the big men or the guys that have the quick hands or the bat speed, that second bounce has an accelerating bounce, almost like it wants to just find another gear. And that high hop on the previous play by Jama Shahid was just beautiful all the way around. 3 different components of great athletic skill.
Well, for the moment, it kept a run off the board, but not long after, Hojo with the base hit. So now 4-0 Brazil as Masail squares to bunt, and this one rolls foul. A ball and the strike. Masail is 1 for 2 today. Singled, stole a base, and scored a run back in the 3rd.
And it's something to keep in mind, although that one was clearly foul, but just mentioning again because we will see it through this qualifier, is the ball that starts in fair territory going down the line will always stay in fair territory. It will not roll foul, just because how the infield lines are canted.
Another interesting thing to point out with Masail is that he is a switch hitter who's actually hit from the left side the last couple of, or from the right side rather, his last couple of trips to the plate. Don't often see that with a non-knuckleball pitcher. Line drive, center field, 2 away.
You know, and with Masail, it reminds me of that old story. There was a great Pittsburgh scout by the name of Howie Hake, who in the sandlots of Panama found this catcher, Manny Sanguillen, who became an outstanding player with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he sent a scouting report out. He said, I saw this guy that's going to be a great major league player. He's a switch hitter. The only problem is he hits right-handed against the righties and left-handed against the lefties.
You do not see that very often. Iriat Chirino singled in his last trip, steps in with a runner on, 2 outs here, bottom 4. Runner goes on the ground towards second, and the throw to first for the out. And that'll do it. But Brazil tacks on another run. They lead this one 4-0 as we head to the top of the 5th here in Brooklyn. This is a shot that I took with my iPhone of our director, Jason Lobb, earlier this morning. Fortunately for us, he is back in the truck, hoping to provide some terrific pictures.
That must be a very buoyant kite.
Sure is.
Very aerodynamic.
Back here at MCU Park in Brooklyn, New York, as we head to the top of the 5th inning. In a 4-0 game, Brazil has the lead. Our first game of a doubleheader on day 1. Great Britain and Israel coming up later on tonight. A swing and a miss by Fazal Ul Rahman, the left fielder who leads things off. He struck out back in the 2nd inning. He'll be followed by Burhan Johar and Ubaid Allah here in the 5th. That one in there for a called strike. Well, I said it last inning. I'll say it again. Gian Tomé has been nothing if not efficient. 0-2 pitch in there for a called strike 3. I mean, he has been attacking hitters, going right at him, getting the benefit of good defense behind him as well, but he has not toiled in many innings today.
Yeah, that's what Barry Larkin had told me, that, and you know, oftentimes you hear someone say, hey, he's got command both sides of the plate. Yeah, right, I'll believe that when I see it. But he fills up the strike zone, and Barry is absolutely right on. He's done exactly that this afternoon with both of his pitches and a lot of first pitch strikes.
This is Johar, who grounded out to end the 2nd. And again, with the pitch restrictions and the potential to play 4 straight days, if you can stay out of your bullpen, the longer the better. There's a play over to first from Bichette to Bichette, 2 away. And you also saw Bo Bichette see, I got a second here. He kind of gathered himself before making the throw.
Yeah, the 2 previous throws, one was low, one was high, and he wanted to take another little mini crow hop and just try to get his footwork. You see him shaking his head, thinking he's a little caught in between. The bad throws really are caused by bad footwork, and when that gets out of rhythm, that's why he took that extra little bit of time, just to be very fundamental in getting that ball over to first, and it was perfect.
Ubaid Ullah grounded out back in the 3rd inning. The 31-year-old sees an 0-1 and takes it for a called strike 2. And that's got to help a pitcher too. Speaking of Gian Tomé, is that if these guys are going to go out there swinging and you're throwing strikes and your defense is making plays, well, that's pretty much the recipe for a nice outing. Just I say that,
good timing.
He uncorks the wild pitch. Or
that was one of those, hey, my bad, sorry about that. I don't know where that came from. He was calling for a pitch up, and we got it.
This one is chopped foul. Count remains a ball and 2 strikes. 3 strikeouts so far this afternoon for Tomé, as Hasanullah is out in the Pakistan bullpen, with Khan at 66 pitches through 4 innings. The 1-2 pitch, tapped foul, and unable to corral that one was Camargo, so the at-bat continues. Troy Hawkins there, the pitching coach. He's got to be pleased with what he's seen from Gian Tomé. A couple of strikeouts in the 5th, 4 on the afternoon. It is a 4-0 lead for Team Brazil as we head to the bottom of the 5th here in Brooklyn. Take you back to the 2013 World Baseball Classic qualifier. It was actually in 2012, in fact, but it was Panama and Brazil. And in Panama City, Brazil goes in and beats the homestanding Panama and wins the qualifier to head to the 2013 World Baseball Classic. Of course, they didn't win any games, unfortunately, in pool play, so they had to qualify yet again. And here in their opener of this qualifier in 2016 for the 17 tournament, they've got a 4-0 lead heading to the bottom of the 5th inning. But once again, back as the skipper, the man on the right, the Hall of Famer, Barry Larkin.
You know, and he really has had a lot to do with how the style of baseball has been played in Brazil. He's been working with them for the last 8 seasons, and there's been kind of a change in the way that they go about playing. It used to be more of a Japanese style where there'd be a lot more breaking balls, and pitchers would tend to nibble a little bit more as opposed to be more aggressive and try to fill up the strike zone, and a lot more of a running game, emphasis on power.
Hard ground ball towards second base, but an easy play for Hussein, and Leonardo Reginato is retired for the first out here in the 5th. That'll bring up Dante Bichette Jr., who tripled home a run in his last at-bat to get the scoring started.
So that's kind of unique in the parallels of these two teams in Saeed Kawar Shah, the father of the manager of Team Pakistan. Basically volunteered his own land to build a baseball field and introduce baseball to that country. Barry has spent a lot of time, 8 years as I mentioned, and really kind of changed the way baseball is played in Brazil.
Yeah, they're trying to grow the game. From the numbers that we got, only about 3,500 of the 205 million Brazilians play organized baseball. But legendary baseball scout Andres Reiner believes that baseball in Brazil has got great potential. He's the one that oversaw the construction on a 29-acre baseball academy for the Tampa Bay Rays. It's about 4 hours outside Sao Paulo, which is its biggest city, Brazil's biggest city. So again,
yeah, I remember when he
there.
did that, and when the commitment was made that the Rays would pay for the maintenance of the facilities, and he being a longtime legendary scout, seeing all of the athletic ability in Brazil, much in the same way as we've been talking earlier about that in Pakistan with cricket. Brazil largely soccer, and as we were talking about earlier.
In 2012, Jan Gomes was the first Brazilian to make it to the major leagues. Jan Gomes, along with Paulo Orlando and Andre Rienzo, who's on this roster, were part of that roster a couple of years back, or 3 years back, I guess, at the time, to play in the WBC. Hot shot towards second base and past the dive of Hussein. Second hit in as many at-bats for Dante Bichette. So after that strikeout in the first, an RBI triple, and then that base hit. So 2 hits this afternoon for Bichette. 1 on, 1 out here in the 5th.
We've seen a couple of those sliders from Shaw start to get elevated. I wonder if they're close to making a move. The last couple of innings, the pitches have come up and towards the middle of the plate, and it looks like that's what happened.
So it looks like his day is done after 73 pitches. Pakistan will go to the bullpen, try to work around this 1-out base runner here in the 5th. The pitching change in Brooklyn. We're back. Hassan Ullah takes over for Inayat Ullah Khan, who worked the first 4 1/3 innings. Battled. The 3 spot in the bottom of the 3rd certainly didn't help. But that's where most of the damage has been done for Brazil, as Ullah will try to limit any further damage here with Dante Bichette Jr. over there at first after his 1-out single.
And with our meetings with the manager from Pakistan, manager Shaw, he said this pitcher had one of the better arms, one of the better velocity arms on his pitching staff.
So Ronaldo Sato, who singled home a run back in the 3rd, digs in. Checks his swing, and it's 1-0. Sato hit .478, 11 for 23, 4 RBIs, 5 runs scored in 6 WBC games in the qualifier and the tournament combined, and has another hit here this afternoon. But overall, what was your takeaway from Khan?
Yeah, I thought he had some nice building blocks. He made some very well located pitches with that little cutter slider, and he just got a little fatigue throwing, kind of a cluster of pitches in a short span of time, and going up against a team that has very good bat speed, and watching them really barrel up a lot of balls in their workout yesterday. It's usually that basic combination. When the pitches come up in the strike zone, the hitters are used to barreling it up. They start to get to you a little bit. But he did a pretty good job of controlling the game. It's just 4-0 with a lot left time. A lot more time.
Tap foul, the count runs full. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Ronaldo Sato, the DH this afternoon for Brazil. In situations like this, you got 4 days. I'm sure there are scouting reports. I can't imagine that they're that in depth that an awful lot. So I would think that the hitters are at the disadvantage in situations like that, right?
Yeah, when you really haven't seen a guy before, it takes you a couple of pitches, because we talk about what is effective velocity, what is deception, and manager Shaw said that this was one of his better pitchers and has good arm strength, and the fastball was in the low 80s, and that's a decent little breaking ball there. And sometimes hitters will go back and say, what's he got? And he says that ball is just absolutely on me in a hurry. And then you look up at the radar gun, and the speed does not correlate from what it feels like when you're up at the plate. And that's where we have been talking so much about effective velocity now these days with StatCats.
One's in there for a called strike to Juan Carlos Muniz, who singled back in the 2nd inning, but grounded into an inning-ending double play back in that 3-run 3rd. He bats with 2 outs here in the 5th. Runner goes. Throw down to second base is not in time. Knocked down by the shortstop, Jama Shaid. But advancing to second base with the 2nd steal of the day for Brazil is Dante Bichette Jr.
They will run a lot. They'll continue to push the envelope and play an aggressive style of baseball.
The 0-2 in the air towards center field. Line shot, and that is over the head of Zohar, who is playing in. This one goes all the way to the wall, and it just stops there at the wall. Being waved around third. Here comes the throw. Not in time. It's an inside the park home run for Juan Carlos Muniz, and it's a 6-0 lead for Brazil.
Well, how about that? We mentioned earlier that this ballpark can play some tricks on you with the swirling winds, and just a ball that was misjudged by Zawar. Incredible effort. But that ball goes all the way to the wall without any recoil. It just goes out there and sticks, and the right fielder had to run forever and a day just to get there.
That'll bring up Bo Bichette, who takes in. And yesterday, we're down on the field as Brazil is taking batting practice, and Steve Finley, longtime major leaguer, has played as much outfield and as much center field as pretty much anybody. And when his guys, his Brazil hitters, were hitting line drives to center field, we heard him say, those are the ones I hated as a center fielder, the ones that are right at you and hit hard. And it probably didn't help that Zawar was a little bit in, but that's a situation where that's a tough play regardless.
Yeah, sometimes it can be knuckling and not just going out there in a perfectly true flight. It can be knuckling. A lot of times I've seen balls that just completely curve and veer, and a lot of folks think that's because of the maple bats, but just a tremendous effort. But once that ball got by Zawar, it was touch 'em all.
And the ball lost just enough speed as it got to the wall that it just pretty much stuck at the bottom of that wall. So the right fielder, Allah, had to make a long run to get there. And by that time, Muniz scored on his first WBC home run of the inside the park variety. And it's now 6-0 Brazil here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Up, been in, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Like Gulab varying his arm angle a little bit there.
Bichette had a nice abbreviated summer in 22 games in the Gulf Coast League rookie ball. 427, 4 homers, 36 RBIs. But here, a strikeout. And out number 3 in the inning. Couple of strikeouts in relief for Ihsan Ullah. The only problem is in between them. An inside the park home run for Juan Carlos Muniz. It's now a 6-0 lead for Brazil. In New York on Coney Island, Paul Severino and Joe McGrain. Look at that. It's our producer Ben Friedfeld and tape producer Michael Trainer on their boats out there. This is my way of saying thanks for the hard work, boys. Anyway.
Well, I guess that means their work is over.
Plenty of hard work this afternoon for Gian Tomei, as he has worked 5 stellar innings to this point on just 44 pitches. He has been so good, so crisp, 4 strikeouts along the way, and now, thanks to 2 more runs in the bottom of the 5th inning, has a 6-0 lead to work with here in the opener of this World Baseball Classic qualifier in Brooklyn. Another game coming up later, Great Britain and Israel. And then tomorrow, the 2 teams that suffer losses today face off. The loser tomorrow goes home. The 2 winners face off tomorrow, and they will fight for a spot in Sunday's qualifying final. First pitch swinging for Bhatti, and he fouls that one away. Bhatti grounded out to short back in the 3rd inning.
Yeah, that was our scouting report on Tomei, is that he was going to absolutely fill up the strike zone, and he's done exactly that in just great economical fashion.
This one lined toward the right center field gap, and that will get down for extra bases as Bhatti takes a turn around second, and he will turn toward third. Here comes the relay throw, beats him by 20 feet, and there's one away. Well, you knew it was going to be extra bases, and I'm not sure if he thought he was satisfied with 2 or not, but it looked like he may have slowed down just a touch approaching second. And when the right fielder Muniz still didn't have the ball, he figured, all right, I'll try third. But a perfectly executed relay, and that's out number 1.
Yeah, I wondered if that had something to do with him in his first at bat, kind of rolling his ankle. You see, he picks up the coach, and then fatigue just kind of sets in, and also the realization that, well, I made a little bit of a mistake there.
Well, that's going to do it for Tomei. Very impressive in 5 1/3. Brazil goes to the bullpen. Back in a moment. Brazil with a 6-0 lead. Yeah, what were you doing? It was a double into the right center field gap off the bat of Umer Imdad Bhatti. Had an easy 2, and now he's getting a little bit of a chat in the dugout. Had an easy 2 bases. Tried to stretch it to 3, and a well-executed relay for Brazil, and they had him by 15, 20 feet over at third. Yes, that is not a mistake. Eric Pardinho is 15 years old.
Well, they say baseball is starting to turn into a young man's game, but this is getting ridiculous. We talked to Barry before the game yesterday, and he said we've got a guy who's 15 years old who throws 94 miles an hour.
Wow.
And here he is.
Certainly bringing it. A couple of pitches and a couple of strikes to Fakir Hussein, the second baseman, who doubled back in the third inning.
I mean, you just look at him close up. This is a Brazilian that's not even shaving yet.
Just 5'8", 165 pounds. On the ground toward third, fair ball, and this one goes down the line. Around first and into second goes Hussein. He's in there safely with his second double of the afternoon. And he is aboard with one out here in the sixth.
Just a little bit of a change up, or it looked to be like a breaking ball that backed up, and after blowing that fastball by him and facing the bottom of the order. Youth is a wonderful thing sometimes, but with the experience, I think he could have handled that sequence a little differently.
First pitch to Zawar is fouled away, and it's 0-1. Zawar singled in the first, kind of got caught off of first base after a drop third strike by the next batter, Jama Shaid, and also grounded out to first, so he is 1 for 2. And also in the bottom half of the fifth inning was in center field when the Muniz inside the park home run went over his head. So he has certainly been in the middle of some interesting plays this afternoon. A tough play defensively nonetheless, but looks to atone for that right here. And takes a ball, 1-2.
I'll tell you what's fun to just watch the arm action of Pardinho, and that he's 15 years of age, and the scouts try to project, where will this guy be in 3 years and in 5 years. You look at the arm action, and that is nice and loose and very natural.
This one is hit well toward right, but the wind may have knocked that one down a little bit. We knew that was going to be the case. That ball sounded good off the bat, and I thought for sure that it was going to be a bit of an adventure for Muniz out and right, and he was just in his tracks to make the play, two away.
A lot of people say the pitcher's best friend is the double play, and sometimes I think it's that atom ball when you make a mistake in the middle of the plate and it's hit hard right at someone.
So now it's Arsalan Jamashaid who struck out and grounded out 0 for 2, and he takes upstairs a ball and no strikes. Take a look at the outfield defense by Chirino in left, Maciel in center, and Muniz in right. There's a lot of green space behind those guys for sure.
Yeah, you just look at the size, 5'8", 132 pounds, and you've got a guy on the hill who's 15 and throwing in the 90s, and shifting kind of the order of the day, and this is just back to the old days of seeing a little guy up at the plate and moving the outfield in.
Yep. Be a 1-0. Runner bluffs off the second, but no advance. And it's now 2-0.
Oh, that's a good pitch right there. I don't know how that could be low on a guy that's 5'8", but you look at the team breakdown, players by age. A couple guys over, well, 4 guys over 40 and 19 under 6 under 19. You know.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah, pretty much just butchered that graphic.
Now you can't win them all.
But if you can read, you probably do pretty well with it.
The 3-1. Tap foul. Count runs full. 3 balls and 2 strikes. I mean, you made it to the major league, first round draft pick, made it to the major leagues, started game 7 of a World Series. When you were 15 years old, how hard did you throw?
Not even close to this kid. Around 80 miles an hour, maybe.
Wow. Payoff pitch coming to Jama Shahid. Runner goes, fouled away.
And he's also 5'8", so it's not like he's creating a lot of tremendous leverage in, you know, being 6'4", 6'5", and throwing the ball downhill and, you know, really creating that good down angle. It's a great loose, fast arm action where the ball just jumps out of his hand, and this is just a tremendous God-given ability.
Once again, a 3-2 pitch, and he misses outside for ball 4. So the first real rally of the afternoon for Pakistan comes here in the 6th inning. As that is, in fact, just the first walk issued by Brazil pitchers, as Jean Tomé went 5 1/3, 3 hits, no walks, and he struck out 4. And then Pardinho issues the free pass here to Jama Shahid.
Well, you can look at Pardinho and see that although being 15, he has some mound presence, some poise, some moxie. Barry did tell me that he is very green, and obviously he's 15 and still learning.
Big swing by Jawad Ali.
But if I was catching him, I would just let him turn the fastball loose at this point and not try to get too tricky and just bring the heat.
The 0-1 to Ali gets the outside corner, and it's 0-2.
See how easy that gas is? Talk about effortless, loose arm action. It just comes right out of the glove, and it is coming down the hill loaded for bear.
0-2 pitch. On the ground toward third, and a nice play. I don't know if it took a little weird spin on Reginato, but he had to reach back to make the play. Steps on third, and Brazil works out of a jam here in the 6th. And they head to the home half with a 6-0 lead. Advances out of this qualifier. over the next 4 days will punch a ticket to Seoul, South Korea in March and play in Pool B play against Chinese Taipei, Korea, and the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So that's coming up. First round of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Comes your way next March. So that is a pool that's in South Korea. That's Pool B. Pool A is in Tokyo. Pool C is in Miami, and Pool D is in Guadalajara. You made the long trip to Taiwan, was it, a few years back?
Taichung, Taiwan. Yeah, it was an awesome experience. Very well attended.
Yeah, there is certainly something to these international baseball tournaments. Obviously, the World Baseball Classic is heading into its 4th go-around, as it were. A couple of times that Japan won. They won the first 2 World Baseball Classic titles, and then the Dominican Republic, the reigning champs, just running through the competition the last time around. So it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to be a part of. Don't get me wrong, it's early mornings to get up and watch the pool play over in Asia, but it's certainly well worth it.
You know, I've been very surprised, pleasantly surprised at the crispness of this game. Just 2 errors, just the incredible passion and effort on both sides of the ball. We've talked about Pakistan being, you know, relatively new to baseball, and the subtleties, the nuances of it, but you can definitely see a lot of promise in their athletic skills as they continue to go forward. Enthusiasm is not a problem on this team.
No, not at all. Not at all. The 2-1 pitch coming, fought off, and a little looping foul ball into the glove of the third baseman Zabir Nawaz for out number 1 as Luis Camargo is retired. And then it's Lucas Hojo due up next. He'll be followed by Gabriel Marcel. Yeah, for Pakistan, obviously there are a few different things that make it difficult for them to be considered a favorite. I'm not going to say compete, because they're going to come here and they're going to compete. But to be considered favorites, it's a little bit tough. I mean, you've got these other teams who have players. There are some Cuban natives on Team Brazil. There are some players who are born in the United States that are playing on other either qualifying teams or will be on different rosters come March. But for Pakistan, not one player born or raised in the United States. And that's not to say that there are not many people of Pakistani descent in the United States. Just here in Brooklyn, we found out yesterday, about 60,000 Pakistanis live here in this area. And, you know, had it not been for work and school, perhaps there would be a much larger turnout. And when we were talking with the manager, Shah, yesterday, he said, well, you know, if they changed the schedule a little bit and we had games on Saturday and Sunday, we'd have a huge turnout. I said, hey, you win your games, you'll be playing Saturday and Sunday. But it's all about that, and it really at the base of the World Baseball Classic, it's about growing the game worldwide. And I think that in that sense, it has done a tremendous job.
Yeah, when you think about Team Pakistan has just been playing since 1992.
This one on the ground. And over to first, 2 away. Hey, you look at just how Major League Baseball has been split up. About 27.5% of players born outside the United States. 18 countries and territories have been represented, and the Seattle Mariners, most in baseball with 13 foreign-born players. Seattle Mariners, of course, they've always had, or it seems like it, they've always had obviously Ichiro and many others right now. Iwakuma, I mean, an Asian feel to that roster as well. I know part of it could be that it's a close trip back home for some of those players from Japan. Shigetoshi Hasagawa going back a few years as well, so well represented. The entire globe well represented by the Seattle Mariners. Here comes the 2-0 pitch. Maciel takes low, and it's 3 balls and no strikes. See guys working on footwork and getting set and ready to go.
Yeah, that's just the basics of a pitching motion, of developing a balance point and getting on that back leg, having your weight on the back leg, and transferring from the back leg to the front leg and where that arm position should be. And I mentioned that so many times that the main sport is cricket, that the bowler actually, which is symbolically the guy that is the pitcher, has a large running start and can only throw overhand without bending his elbow. So, they already have very strong shoulder muscles and the ability to create speed from the ground up, but it's just learning the baseball delivery. And that's something that we were actually talking about with manager Shaw, that a scout had said that after a guy has been doing a certain motion for 21 years of age, that you can't change him. That's in his muscle memory, and he wasn't exactly buying that, and I can understand where he's coming from.
Runner goes. Throw to second is not in time.
Yeah, that's something that's been automatic all day, and mentioned that the catching position is a tough part of their development, and not only just trying to develop the pitching motion, but the proper mechanics behind the plate.
Second stolen base of the afternoon for Maciel. And he moves into scoring position for Iriat Chirino, who's 1 for 3 this afternoon. Singled back in the 3rd. Knocked down and able to find it rather quickly is Bati, and no advance. But to finish that thought on what we were seeing down in the bullpen down the left field line, one of the coaches, Peter Durkovic, working with the relief pitchers, they do not have back home in Pakistan, they don't have a professional pitching coach. So they are not getting as much instruction as certainly we do in the United States, or even in Brazil, which is still relatively, I don't want to say new to the game, but certainly doesn't have a huge contingency in the major leagues. They're working at getting there for sure, and manager Barry Larkin is doing what he can to make sure that happens.
Yeah, Paul, I was just talking about in the last half inning about their 15-year-old pitcher, Pardinho, who's 15 years of age and has a beautiful major league looking arm action. And that's a pitching coach with Pakistan that's just trying to teach the very basics of a pitching delivery. And mentioned that they have plenty of athletes, but that is just something to, pardon the expression, completely foreign to them as far as what their deliveries have been with the sport that they're used to playing.
And that's the thing. I mean, we talk about it all the time, the importance of a major league pitcher to repeat his mechanics to be effective. And this is a guy who's worked on those mechanics for years and years and years. A strikeout looking to end it. It is a 6-0 lead for Team Brazil as we head to the top of the 7th here in Brooklyn. top half of the 7th inning. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. New backstop for Team Brazil as Luis Paz takes over, member of the Los Angeles Dodgers organization. And Adilson Batista takes over on the mound. He's in the Boston Red Sox system. So a completely new battery here for Team Brazil, which holds a 6-0 lead heading to the 7th inning. The first game of 6 over the course of the next 4 days here in Brooklyn. The final World Baseball Classic qualifier. Whoever should advance from this qualifying bracket will head to Seoul, South Korea for pool play in March.
Well, the last pitcher for Brazil, Pardinho, was 15, and while I was butchering that graphic of the age breakdown of Team Brazil, we go from 15 to a 19-year-old left-hander in Batista. Edison Batista.
He's getting so old on the mound. 4, 5, and 6 due up for Team Pakistan as Zubair Nawaz leads things off, and then it's Rahman and Johar here in the 7th. Ball and no strikes. For Nawaz, grounded out in the 2nd inning and grounded into a double play to end the 4th. There are scouts for major league teams all over the globe. There's no question about it. But this is a situation, a tournament, whether it's the World Baseball Classic proper, as it were, or if it's one of these qualifiers where it's an awful lot easier to log on to the internet or whatever it may be, flip on the TV and see these guys. In a situation like Pardinho or Batista, these youngsters, there's going to be a lot of scouts' eyes on these young kids through this tournament.
Boy, you're right, and you know, just as another example, 6-3 gets pulled off rather easily. I'd love to talk to the scout that discovered in Berlin, Germany, Max Kepler, who has just been tearing it up with the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, we actually, Germany was one of the 4 teams in the qualifier in Mexicali, where I was calling games back in March. And again, same sort of thing. The host country was Mexico. They're obviously a long, storied baseball history. And then you have a team like Germany. They don't play long seasons back home, but really impressed me. And, that's the exact same thing here. And that's, as we talked about last half inning, that's really the point of the World Baseball Classic, is because it's great. And Team Pakistan, we asked them yesterday, how much Major League Baseball are you guys watching? And they watch a ton of it. Big Yankee fans, Cub fans. That popularity is certainly global for those clubs. But to also see the international baseball feel and just how much different that is, like not better or worse, just different. But there's so much emotion with the teams, with the players, and certainly with the fans. And that sort of thing is infectious. You've seen it in Olympics. You've seen it in World Baseball Classics. So when you see that, that is one thing that really helps to water the seeds of baseball around the world.
Boy, completely, and it permeates throughout the stands during the game, and the sense of national pride of their team, their athletes. And for these teams, coming in from other countries, staying at the team hotel, baseball is all over the dial. And so that has to be a thrill for them to be able to watch Major League Baseball.
Payoff pitch coming to Fazal-ul-Rahman, who takes outside and draws the walk. So that walk to go along with a couple of strikeouts this afternoon, but he is aboard with 1 out here in the 7th inning. First walk issued for Batista, the second batter faced, but second walk overall issued by Brazil pitching this afternoon. For Batista in 2016 in the Dominican Summer League, Really improved on his 2015 numbers where he pitched at a 4.50 ERA, but in 2016 shrunk that down to 2.39 in 13 starts.
Well, you look at his leg kick, and it may be a little more abbreviated out of the stretch. He does kind of have that Aroldis Chapman type look and timing mechanism where that knee and toe, just that toe points straight down and that knee comes up. One thing missing is the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. But you can see some of that similarity. Look kind of familiar, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Very short lead off of first base. Chases that one, and it's 0-2. Yeah, for as much as we talk about young pitchers at various levels, but certainly in the major leagues, it seems like everybody throws 95, 98. And some people might say, yeah, 98 and 106, that's both pretty fast, but that is a whole other world at 104, 5, 6, where Aroldis Chapman's living.
Well, you think about 95, and then you think about what a huge jump in the reaction time it is to put 5 more miles per hour on that fastball.
Ramon off of first. Here comes the 1-2 pitch to Johar. Just misses. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Pinch hitter Adnan Butt is on deck for Team Pakistan. And the 2-2 is chopped foul to stay alive.
Yeah, that pitch a much better delivery. Kind of just shortened his leg kick and really kind of sped things up, and his arm didn't drag. He was able to get it out in front. A little bit shorter, and you see how there's a lot more extension out front, and that's what you're looking for.
Fouls it straight back, just missed that one. Count remains 2-2. Yeah, 6'3", 210 for Batista. You consider that a pitcher's body, right? Long and lean.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fights that one off. Heck of an at-bat here for Johar.
Yeah, scouts like to see pitchers a little over 6'2", 6'3" to 6'6". And obviously when you start getting up that high, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to develop that delivery, to kind of time all of those levers and everything. But the idea is to use the 10-inch mound to your advantage.
On the ground, and it gets past Pojo into right field. Wasn't going to be an easy play. And now the ball trickles away, getting a little bit too aggressive. And now the throw to second is not in time. Well, the ball trickled away from second base, and Ramon, who was in there safely, what was that, 8 feet from a fielder, and a good heads-up defense by Batista. He was Johnny on the spot over there at third, and he was covering the bag. I'm not sure where Ramon was headed.
It's one of those difficult plays that you'd have to look at again to try to explain exactly what happened with this ball getting by the second baseman and the right fielder playing shallow. And that's where, you know, some of the subtleties and nuances that Team Pakistan is learning. May have gotten a break on the call at second base. But those base running instincts,
He's what, halfway between second and third before that throw is made, and the throw it to second was also accurate, but just a second too late.
Yeah, when do you see the pitcher in that position blistering a ball to second base?
Yeah.
Weird, huh?
Yeah, and he was waiting there. He was waiting at third. As the pitching coach LaTroy Hawkins will head out to the mound. Yeah, Bautista was waiting at third base, so it wasn't like it was a foot race to the bag between the runner and the pitcher and that nobody was covering. But questionable base running, I suppose, for Team Pakistan, as the 37-year-old Adnan Butt will take over, pinch hit rather. LaTroy Hawkins may have lost his shades on the way back to the dugout after a quick little chat with Bautista.
Yeah, I got to keep those, very important.
Bright day. One in the dirt to the backstop. Well, our sources were right. That ball hits that backstop and it just dies back there. There is not a lot of bounce back off of that padding behind home plate. I think Butt thought that might have been ball 4. He's being recalled.
But it was just ball 3.
So it's officially ruled an error, by the way, on the second baseman. That's how Johar reached. He is now over at third. That one is ball 4, and it'll be first and third with 2 outs here in the second.
You know, Bautista's had a couple of pitches that I mentioned where his delivery was good, and that is, you know, that's the challenge. Just a 19-year-old kid with the good arm that once he gets that on time where everything is releasing out front and just coming off the tips of his fingers. I guess kind of the image is like cracking the whip, the end of a bull whip, where you're consistently doing that and you have consistent direction and pattern with where the ball ends up at the plate. That's when he'll really take off. But the plate is bouncing around.
Pinch hitter is Hiadat Ullah, who's pinch hitting for Bhatti, who was 1 for 2. Had a double and tried to stretch it to 3 and was thrown out over third. Back-to-back innings with rallies, albeit with 2 outs for Pakistan. A chopper towards second, and the inning is over. So for the second consecutive inning, Team Pakistan leaves a couple of runners on base. They trail it 6-0 as we stretch in Brooklyn. Grain with you. Brazil got on the board in the third inning as Dante Bichette had himself an RBI triple. That made it a 2-0 Brazil lead. Next batter was Ronaldo Sato, who brought home Bichette to cap that 3-run third inning. They scored one in the fourth and then two more in the fifth thanks to this swing of the bat. As Juan Carlos Muniz with a line drive to center field, rolled to the wall, kind of stuck there, and inside the park home run, and it's a 6-0 lead for Brazil as we head to the bottom half of the seventh inning here at MCU Park. So time running out here for Team Pakistan as it's another inning of work for Ihsan Ullah.
Boy, as we mentioned, throughout this game, you can see really, flashes of great athletic ability for this team. Some of the subtleties, some of the nuances that they're learning. Of course, Team Brazil a little bit further down the line and getting some outstanding instruction, but the Pakistanis have really played with a tremendous amount of enthusiasm and passion and really as a team.
A couple of the defensive changes after the pinch hitters in the top half of the inning. Adnan Butt goes out to right field and Hidayat Ullah takes over behind home plate. 3, 4, and 5 due up for Team Brazil here in the bottom of the seventh inning. Looking to add to a 6-0 lead. Leonardo Reginato, who's already reached a couple of times, takes outside. Ball one. He'll be followed by Dante Bichette Jr. and Ronaldo Sato. Reginato, who had 11 hits in the World Baseball Classic qualifier and tournament a few years back, has already added to that total today. This one on the ground towards short, bobbled, and he'll reach on what is sure to be an E6.
Well, you could see that ball was hit right off the end of the bat, and I was thinking that was going to be a lot of trouble for either the third baseman or the shortstop, because that had a lot of cue spin on it, and you can see it was just twisting. And you take a lot of fungo practice, and guys are not used to seeing the ball spin like that.
The other thing is that Nawaz, the third baseman, I think you're always taught, right, as a third baseman, to go get whatever you can get. And it looked like just at the last second, I
think he saw the spin on it. He said, "You can have that
that
one."
You can have that one. So Nawaz pulled off, and then Jama Shahid bobbled it. But this is reason number 387 why I'm not an official scorer. That was ruled a hit. So perhaps taking into account the funky spin, not sure. But either way, however you score it, Brazil has a runner on to lead things off for one of their big bats, Dante Bichette Jr., who has come up with a couple of hits, one of which, as we just showed you, drove home a couple of runs back in the third. And he also added a single and a stolen base in the fifth.
Well, you can see in Bichette's face, Junior looks just like his daddy.
No doubt. Maybe not anymore. There's Dante right there. 274 career home runs, a 4-time All-Star. Dante's got a couple of sons in this game, of course. Dante at the plate, and Bo Bichette, who's manning shortstop and hitting 7th for this club. That got him good. So after the hit by pitch, 2 on, nobody out for Team Brazil. Take you back. There was certainly a lot of it. The damage done by Dante Bichette. Just missed being a 300 career hitter. But boy, did he just whack him around the yard at Coors Field. I just heard a little birdie tell me he's 1 for 2 against Joe McGrain with a double.
Well, that was probably
kept him in the yard.
That probably involved one of those. I think he was the guy that really invented the style of the mini bat flip. It just dropped it right down there in the ground. So unique to him.
One of the Blake Street Bombers back in the day over at Coors Field. This one misses to the pinch hitter, Carlos Garmendia, who pinch hits for Reynaldo Sato. Takes low, 2 balls and no strikes. Before being pinch hit for, Sato struck out twice, but added an RBI single in that 3-run third inning. Seen both managers try to get as many guys in as possible. Just kind of get your feet wet a little bit, right? In a situation like this, just make sure everybody gets an at bat or whatever the case might be. Get a feel for it, maybe.
Yeah, get a feel not only for the pitching, but for the dynamic of the field, the surface, the type of field that they have never played on before.
Action in the bullpen for Team Pakistan as Asrar Ahmad is beginning to loosen up. And this is outside and trickles to the backstop, so both runners move up into scoring position with nobody out here in the bottom of the 7th inning. So between that and a 3-1 count coming to the Miami native Carlos Garmendia, Brazil's got a chance to tack on to this 6-0 lead, and Pakistan will now play the infield in.
Please give my regards to Captain Stubing, Isaac, Julie, and Gopher, of course.
The infield is playing in for Team Pakistan on the infield, the outfield at normal depth. The 3-2 pitch misses outside, and the bases will be loaded. You're a pitcher, but you know that's
pretty
a ball,
close
right?
pitch. Well, it's one in an area where you're taught to throw it, but anytime you see that catcher just kind of move that glove back, it was just a touch outside, but you know that if you're living down in that area, you're going to be pretty successful, but that of course means when you're ahead of the count.
Another pinch hitter here as Fernando Luciano takes over, and he comes up in a big spot here in the 7th inning with the bases loaded. And we should tell you that if he connects on a home run here, if he does, it would be 4 runs. That would make it 10-0, and that would implement the early termination rule. It's a little bit different, obviously, than major leagues where they don't even worry about that sort of thing, but it's different depending on the innings and the score. If it's a 15-run spread after 5, it's an early termination. If it's 10 after 7, it's an early termination. This is a chopper toward third, the throw to first, and in there safely, beating it out, and a run comes in to score.
I was wondering if there was the tag up high before he was able to touch first base, but that's such a difficult call for the umpire, and I think that's what the argument's going to be. It looked like there was a tag before he reached first base. The umpire really relies on that bang-bang play on sound on the pop of the glove and where his foot hits.
Unless, because there was contact, and it looked like there was contact before the foot hit the bag, but unless he was tagged out with the forearm or tagged with the forearm as opposed to the glove. That might be
Yep.
what's in question.
Well, that's what I was talking about. You just here he said that he tagged him on the head, and
That was one of the coaches, in fact, the pitching coach, John Golding, going out to chat with the first base umpire, Andrew Higgins. So, end of the day, bases still loaded, a run in, and it's now a 7-0 edge for Team Brazil. This one on the ground toward third. They come home to get one. Spin and throw, that's all they'll get, but it cuts off another run for Brazil, keeps the bases loaded, and there's one away.
yeah, that was a crisp little play there with a ball hit hard to the third baseman. And the catcher just doing a quick little spin and an accurate throw inside the baseline. Almost able to turn off a very difficult play. It was nice and crisp.
That one is fouled back. As Luis Paz bats here for Luis Camargo. It took over defensively behind the plate. And now that one misses. Oof. You're a pitcher, you are begging for these calls with the bases loaded and one out. You need them.
He took a little bit off that one, and it was right in the middle.
That one not so much. Count runs to 3 balls and a strike. And nowhere to put Luis Paz. So as Ula ties his shoelace and gets a mini meeting on the mound with the infielders, we'll reset the base runners for you. Garmendia is at third base. He reached on a walk. Muniz is over at second. He reached on that throwing error that also drove in a run. And Luciano is on first after the fielder's choice. Is there more arguing going on here?
The batter walked and a run forced in. And a call to the bullpen.
Sounded like a little bit of more arguing, but maybe I misheard. Not sure. Anyway, it's an 8-0 lead now for Team Brazil after a walk brings home another run. We are still in the bottom of the 7th, and they are still loaded. We're back in a moment. Illustrate these early termination rules a bit further. Team leading by 10 runs after 7 innings wins the game. Team leading by 15 runs after 5 innings, and they'll stop it, and that will end it. So that's kind of in play right now with the bases loaded and 1 out for Team Brazil as 2 runs have come in to score in the inning. A pitching change for Team Pakistan as Asrar Ahmad comes in out of the bullpen for Team Pakistan. Try to keep this game going right now as Vitor Ito will be the pinch hitter for Lucas Hojo. It's been a wild inning. There hasn't been much contact. There's been some errors. There's been some walks. There's been a couple of runs scored. And Brazil has a chance to, if they can score a couple of more runs in this inning, end it early.
You know, it hasn't been, one of those games because you see some of the raw skills of the Pakistani players, but it's just been kind of learning the subtleties and the nuances that have got themselves into this type of situation where they've got so far behind.
This one on the ground towards first, throws to second for 1, late at first, and the 9th run comes in to score. A little bit of an indecision over there at first base by Ali, I think.
Yeah, and again, that was pretty much making my point. Just these guys are playing for this game to continue. A hard hit ball that he's playing right at the bag. It's just not used to instinctively throwing to the plate and doing the 3-2-3. So they try the 3-6-3, and with that indecision in between it. And that's kind of what I was talking about, is the instinctive part of it, where baseball being a game of repetition to where you can react. And as Yogi Berra said, you can't think and play at the same time.
That's a good point. That one misses upstairs to Gabriel Maciel, who has been to the plate 4 times today, but 3 official at-bats as he walked back in the 6th. Also singled, stole a base, and scored back in the 3rd. This one a line drive, base hit up the middle, and that will do it for Team Brazil. That's their 10th run. And for all intents and purposes, should end the game. Although it looks like a bit of confusion here. And
yeah, that should
for
be
the first time in a while, I don't think I was the one at the forefront of it. So that's the game-winning single up the middle for Maciel, and a 10-0 early termination victory for Team Brazil. This is how it ended, with a base hit up the middle, just out of the reach of Ahmad. Up the middle, and in comes the run to win it for Brazil.
Well, we saw the great bat speed, the way the Brazilians can absolutely turn it loose, and actually a lot to really like in the way that the Pakistanis go about it. They played with tremendous teamwork and emotion, and just some of those little subtleties and nuances that, without having the benefit of a lot of repetition, really kind of led to their undoing in the game. But what they did go up against was, I think, one of the real strong teams in this pool, maybe the strongest.
No question about it. So Barry Larkin and Team Brazil pick up the victory and early termination 10-0 win. Later tonight, don't miss Great Britain and Israel as they go head-to-head in their first game of this qualifier. For Joe McGrain and our entire crew, I'm Paul Severino saying goodbye for now. Thanks for watching our coverage of the 2017 World Baseball Classic qualifier from Brooklyn. We'll see you later tonight.